It's the Kink Consultant Podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of The Kink Consultant. I'm Amanda Dames, and today I'm joined by two infamous people in the Las Vegas kink scene. I'm here with Veronica and Jim. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was so excited when you both agreed to join. So, Veronica and Jim, you are married to each other, correct?
Yes.
And you have been together for how many years?
We've been married 26, but I think now we're almost at 28 years together.
Yeah, 96.
Wow, so you got married fast.
We did.
Yeah, but we were military. So I was 18 when we met, and I had...
He was 2 days legal.
What?
Yeah, I literally just turned 18.
And you swooped in immediately.
I swooped. I didn't swoop.
Oh, okay.
He was the swooper.
Yeah.
I was the swoopy.
I mean, it's with a lot of military relationships. I don't know how many military people you know, but marriages happen really quick, and they usually end up kind of fizzling out as quick as they start with it. The turnover rate or divorce rate in the military is outrageously high.
Like higher than the average 50%?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it depends. There's so many factors that go into that, too. Like if you like your alone time because your spouse might be deployed every, once a year for 6 months, once a year for 9 months. Like even our son right now, our oldest is in the military, and he just came home on leave for 2 weeks and brought a fiance home with him that I'm not prepared for.
Yeah.
That's a lot, actually.
It is, yeah.
Well, I guess I should say thank you both for your service then, and your son. Congrats on the new future daughter-in-law. Yeah, okay. Well, so when you both met, did you know you were kinky?
I was not.
You weren't even kinky at the time.
Absolutely vanilla. I was as like a cisgendered white male, typical frat boy kind of guy that was out there, and I was extremely vanilla. Veronica was a little kinkier than I was.
I always thought I was kind of a weirdo when I was young. Like other kinky folk, you kind of keep your weirdness to yourself, or you think something's wrong with you, or...
Oh, yeah.
So I just kept it to myself. I didn't know that there was other people out there, kind of like
into
me.
this.
Keep in mind, this is the mid-90s, too.
Yeah.
So it's
yes.
we would be considered kinky just because we were an interracial couple at that point.
Depending on what part of America you were in, I'm guessing that was true. Yeah.
I specifically have one memory of fucking around, and Veronica was like, smack my ass. And I was like, are you okay?
Oh my God.
Like,
you've become so perverted since then.
Oh, yeah,
I've seen you play.
No, you're not even getting the whole word out before it's already coming. And this meat hawk doesn't really.
You don't even have to ask, it's coming.
Yeah. Okay, you asked to have your ass smacked, which maybe you bottomed in that 1 second, but how do you both identify?
I constantly tell people that I've never looked at myself as a dom in that sense. Because to me, it's a power exchange relationship with another person. Like, you can be a solo dom, you can be by yourself, but it doesn't click for me in that sense. To me, unless I have somebody that I want to be dominant over or dominant with, I consider myself a top in many situations. And somebody pointed out recently that we're like the community mommy and daddy. We're like the community mom, dad. We're like the community doms that come out there because we constantly get asked to top scenes at parties or do things, or we take control of a scenario when something's wrong. Somebody comes to us for problems.
Jim's more of a disciplinarian, which is why he ends up being a brat tamer, because you have disciplinarian and all the brats go, "Ooh, daddy," and that's pretty much his role. So he's dominant, top, and disciplinarian. I am a dominant.
I am aware. So please don't let anybody don't let Veronica fool you with her demure, gentle presence here. She is one of the scariest doms you will ever see. I saw her doming first, and then the second time I went to her house, and we'll get into that, she gave me a tour, and I was shaking because I was like, this can't be the same woman. Is this the same woman? Very strong dom personality that comes on.
I'm quite a heavy.
Heavy, yes. Scary is the word I would use, but yes.
We used to throw parties with a friend before the clubhouse, well before any of the stuff, and every month we would take turns throwing a party. And we both had really nice homes at the time, so we could house a lot of people. And the parties at that point were 50 people or so on average. And we would get to his house early to help set up and do all the stuff. And we came in, and Veronica was wearing a onesie, carrying a giant tray of just homemade mac and cheese, and kind of came in, doop, 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 her normal mom mode, and kind of put the mac and cheese down, and then went off to go change. And we had met a new couple that was there, and the girl that was there was just like, oh my God, mac and cheese. She was just so obsessed with it. And then Veronica came out in full dom mode, and she was like, what the
Yes.
Like lost it. She's like, it's not the same person.
It's not the same person.
Yeah, I could turn it on and off. Somebody was telling me that I have black mama energy. They said that on top of the dom makes you way scarier than if you would just be just a dom. But yeah.
I would let a lot of people top me, right? And I don't think I have the balls to let you top me. I mean, I would even be able to take you, but you gentle. Are. I don't believe it. But no, I know you can adjust. You are. I can't say a pro because you're not like a pro like that, are you?
I mean, I could be. I'm also a nurse. I'm so busy and I'm so tired. And then, so I like pull up all my energy for our parties and stuff. And then it just takes a lot out because it's a lot of mental energy that I use at work. So, I mean, I've thought about it. I've thought about just, just doing it. And
let's keep that in mind.
I will keep that in mind. Yeah. I usually have not so much as set people that I play with, but I kind of like to get to watch people and know them a little bit. Yeah. Before I put my hands on them.
Sorry. I've seen you put your hands on people too. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably why.
Because I want to see what their yeses and nos are. I mean, we go through that with negotiation anyway. But I do like to see how people react with others. And then just to kind of get to know them a little bit, just having a drink or whatever or soda and just listening to them talk to other people. And then I'm like, okay, oh, you're like that. Noted. I just take little things that they say and...
Do you know immediately if you are going to get along with playing with someone?
Yes, because if I don't think it's going to happen, I'm not going to play with you.
Yeah, but do you pick up on the energy, would you say?
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that's what that was. Like, just even before I start a scene, I get real close to the person and we're like forehead to forehead. And I'm just, I didn't realize that was such a huge energy exchange that I was doing. And then I'll go in with a plan. But then once I'm like in their space and in their energy, and I'm like, no.
Could read that body language.
We're going to do this instead. It's going to be fucking great.
I know. But I also think it's not just body, it is body language, right? Mm-hmm. But when you get into that energy field with someone and you like create space and put your bubble around them and bring them into your world, it's electric and you almost just know sometimes.
Yeah.
Due to good negotiation in advance. But yeah.
You know where to go.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so you both referenced this. You throw parties.
Yes.
At your house.
Right now it's at our house.
Our organization is the Cathedral. And part of that is because even though, yes, we do hurt people, but it is a sanctuary of safety.
It really is.
So, because we want people to feel safe when they come. We want them to learn how to play safe when they come. Jim does a wonderful 101. And I swear it gets better every time he does it because he like tweaks it and he listens to other DOMs when they come to the class. And they're like, hey, what do you think about adding this or doing that? And he does such a wonderful job of just drawing you in. So I don't go to every 101 that he does, but then I'll go to him every once in a while. I'm like, oh, that's new. That was good, Dave.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same regurgitated information over and over again. But
you say that, but I'm ashamed to say I haven't been to a single one yet. But then everyone who goes and goes multiple times says the exact same thing about how they get better and better, how everyone who attends, no matter how long they've been in the scene, they learn something from attending the 101. So I need to get on that. Okay, so it's called the Cathedral. It's like a sanctuary. Jim's Fet name is
Pope because it's the cathedral.
And I think that is Pope. Great.
Now, see, this started out, my best friend, his wife, and his kids were playing Cards Against Humanity with Veronica, myself, and our kids. Now, I say kids.
Which was a joy in itself.
At this point, our boys are 23 and 25. They're older. And his kids are the same age. So they were all older teenagers at this time. One of them was an adult. They were 18. The rest were like 16 to 18. But we're all sitting there doing our stuff. And our youngest is huge into theater. Like he's literally right now doing an interview audition for something. We don't know what it is. But so we're playing and my buddy is reading the card on Mac Daddy. Our youngest son was like going through all the different cards and things. And he's like, wow, what's on Mac Daddy? And we're like, oh my God, dude, I can't feel that old yet.
Look it up.
So he reads it off Urban Dictionary and just in all his vibrato and everything he could do, just giving this whole spiel out. And he goes, the Pope of Pimps. And I was like,
Jim was like, ding, ding, ding. That's it. He immediately pulled out his phone. Okay. Jim has a habit of changing his name on Fet.
Had a habit.
And Usually it's when he's had a few libations there. Like at one point he changed his name. He was standing there with another redhead, and this blonde, very drunk, walked by, and she goes, cinnamon stick. And Jim was like, oh.
It was funny.
And then he changed his name. I had to fight him for his phone, but he has longer arms. And he changed his name to Cinnamon Stick, which he very much regretted. And you have to keep it for 30 days.
FetLife lets you change your name every 28 days. So at that time, I was changing it every 28 days to whatever I thought was funny. So whoever was in my target at that time, I would make fun of their profile name with my name and do something stupid. But I changed it for like the first year, like every 28 days. So I was constantly going through profile names until somebody took my original name and it started doing it back to me. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Yeah. And then Pope and Pimp stuck for well over a decade. Yeah. Well, now it's just Pope.
I know. I was shocked when I was like, what are all the pimps going to do? Why did you drop it?
Great.
A friend of mine had changed their name to something really simple. They had a complicated name before, and they were changed to something simple. But if you've ever been on FetLife, everything simple or everything good is kind of already taken. So it's hard to get something unique on there that's simple. But when I asked her, she said, well, nobody had used that account in like a really long time. So I just emailed the administrators, and they let me take over that account name, and they just gave a placeholder name to that person in case they ever came back. So when I looked up Pope, they started the account in the beginning of FetLife, but they had one picture and no profile, and that was it. So I just emailed them. The first time I got denied, and they're like, no, we don't do that. And I was like, yeah, you do. But I waited like 6 months, and I asked again. And when I logged in the next time, I was already changed. They changed it for me. So if you do see one that's on a really old account that's dormant, not used, you can potentially get that account.
Potentially. I wish I had that for Instagram. Does not do that. I have to be the _ kink consultant, even though the kink consultant, all one word, is dormant. Mm-hmm. Nothing has been posted, but maybe I'll try again and again, just like you did.
Yeah. Persistence. Be persistent. Squeaky wheel.
So when did you move to Vegas? I feel like it's recent enough. Like I've only moved here last year. How long have you been in Vegas?
So we've been about 3.5 years now. Mm-hmm. We had owned a home in California. A friend of ours is a real estate agent in both California and Nevada. And he would bounce back and forth, and he had 2 gorgeous homes in both, but he's very successful in real estate and kept selling up Vegas to us because California wasn't ever really, at that time, wasn't the end goal because it was so expensive. We couldn't justify how much we were trying to spend on real estate and other things that were out there. When you retire, you're on a fixed income. So I was trying to think further down the road on things. And so we had a list of 5 cities, and Vegas wasn't even on it at the time. So we came out, and he showed us all around the city and showed us the variety of food that was out here. The entertainment and everything was wonderful. It was gorgeous with the scenery of, like, I didn't even know there were mountains out here because we would come out and go to the hotel and never leave the hotel. So like seeing Mount Charleston and everything else that was out there, it was just the heat was the big kicker. That was the massive con that still to this day.
Okay, I love the heat. Oh. You hate the heat. I've heard you really hate the heat.
It makes me hostile. I have to say,
5 months out of the
year. I thought
I
was going to be fine, but no, it makes me hostile, and it just makes me not feel good.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's the cold for me. I will take 120 degrees over 40 degrees any day.
I love the cold, though, because you can always put things on, but once you've taken off that last article of clothing, there is nothing else that you can possibly shed to cool off.
I like to earn my sweat.
No, I just like to bake. Okay, so,
you're a lizard. It's fine.
Yeah, I am a lizard.
Kind of tied into when we got out here. We came in with a decade of experience with owning a club and doing stuff with the community out there. I didn't want to walk into Vegas and just be like, I'm the big dick in town now. This is how we're going to do things, and just kind of set the bar and stuff. So I sat back in the cut. I tried to find the different groups that were out here, which was wildly difficult because it was the end of the pandemic. And if you just search Las Vegas on FetLife, you get 15 pages of inactive groups or sex groups or, that gangbangs.
A lot of sex groups.
I was just going to say so many.
Yeah. And navigating through that was difficult. So I ended up finding some random couple that I saw was active and in Las Vegas, and they directed me towards a group called Building Blocks, which was active at the time, and it was education based. So I got involved, and I sat back and I just watched, and it was like, education, I love it. We're going to go learn more about classes, do things again. And then they were looking for a location to throw a party, and I was like, well, I got a big ass house. My wife's a travel nurse. She's gone at the moment. And throw a party. I like weird shit, so I will host anything and everything. I have no judgment onto it. The weirder it is, the better it is to me.
You've had some weird. Yeah.
I love the weird shit, man. So that's kind of why we started out here with throwing the parties and doing stuff. And with the stress that came with owning the club and doing stuff in the community back in California, I really didn't want to be involved in like community leadership stuff anymore. It is wildly stressful because everybody comes to you with any little problem they have with somebody. We practice PRIC, personal responsibility and consensual kink. And that ties over into the personal lives that fall in BDSM as well. I'm not going to hold your hand through your relationship. And if you broke up with your partner, I'm not going to ban them because you're upset with them at the moment. You know, you have to work through it. And if you keep pushing it, I'm just going to make you both take a break out of our stuff. You know,
and a lot of people do. They expect that. And it's like, the community is small. You're going to have people that you see and that you lust over, and you have a thing, and then you no longer have a thing. And you're going to have to be able to rotate through those same circles and still function. And some people have a hard time with that. It's still a small community. I mean, there's a lot of us, but it's still a small community. You're
going to run into these people again. So you got to play nice.
You got to play nice.
Your only option really if you want to stay involved in the community. And it's as large as it is, it's also tight knit.
Yeah,
we are all close. We all know each other, even just tangentially of being in this, running in the same circles.
You've seen each other somewhere at something. So
I mean, Vegas is nice because we do have a lot of groups that are out there. And that was one thing we got warned about, because our place in California we had one group and that was it. If you got in trouble, then there was no more kink for you. You just do it by yourself in your house.
And then there was another group that kind of splintered off, and then the two groups interacted still, but the leadership of those two groups didn't really.
Yeah, I could see how that could happen.
But with all the different groups we do have, and it's like a layer of pancakes. I mean, the Venn diagram is almost a full circle, but there are different groups where if you're like, I don't like that person in that group, you have other options to go to, you know?
You do, but it's still, the reputation is still there.
Yeah.
Word travels fast.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
So you I think you have to really protect your reputation and remember that when you're out there conducting yourself in any way in the public, but this is one of those things. Did you ask Veronica before you threw your first party?
Oh, yeah. No, it was.
You let me know.
So going back to when we first started, I always throw a Halloween party every year. This has gone on since we were 18.
That's our holiday.
It's like we have so much Halloween decoration and stuff. When we got involved in the community, I guess I got to tell that story to kind of get into the first party story. I went on a what we called a mancation with my best friends, the guys I graduated college with, and I have 2 degrees. I have one in IT and then one in biology. So we got to go to the IT degree for these guys. And if you've ever studied anything with an IT on those, they're not exactly the most extroverted of people. They're usually a little more introverted, a little more World of Warcraft, a little more Dungeons & Dragons style, which it's great. You know, I play World of Warcraft. I have for 20 years at this point. Okay. So we're back east in Maryland, and I'm hanging out with all of these introverts except my best friend who's an extrovert. And we're at a lake house, this gorgeous lake house, and there's a bar like in the middle of the lake, and you can take a pontoon boat to go to this fucking dope ass bar, and all they wanted to do was hang out in the house and play board games. And we're like, fuck you guys, there's like a bachelorette parties, let's go have fun, let's go flirt with people, let's go drink. They're like, no, we want to stay outside. And it turned into be more of a drain on things. It was still great, and I love these guys. Are my brothers, I love them. But I remember bitching to Veronica over text. I was like, oh my God, man, one of them hasn't showered in like 4 days.
Oh God.
I'm going nuts here, I want to go home. And then I just randomly mentioned, because she's always been interested in BDSM, and I was like, nah, I don't really like that stuff, man, that's scary. But I mentioned, hey, if you want to do some of this stuff, I'm going to open eyes. I won't point because I have a problem pointing. I'm like, oh my God, look at that.
He does.
I do. So
smack him all the time.
As soon as I sent that text, all of a sudden my phone just went bling, 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 bling. She's like, oh, read this article. Watch this thing. Watch this video.
Oh, you were just waiting.
And then she was like, oh my God, I found this website. Found this website. Just randomly found this website.
Oh yeah, we all randomly found the website 10 months ago.
Which was FetLife. And so we're watching videos. We're talking about stuff. And at that point, Ronnie was talking about sending me videos of like dominatrix with like submissive males on things, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I think switches in both DS relationships type of thing, both dom and submissive, and switches in like impact type stuff are the best. I wish I could be a switch. I have a problem letting go of control, and I don't really follow orders very well.
I don't like getting hit.
So
that makes me want to fight.
Yeah, the heat, getting hit, not your things. Okay.
So I was watching him. I was like, I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll fucking explore some things if you want to. But it never really went down that avenue. I think it lasted all of like 5 seconds, and she touched my ass cheek, and I was like, no, I'm fucking done. Anyways, I digress. So Veronica found FetLife. We both created accounts and made our profiles. And then she's like, all right, well, 2 days after you get back, there's a munch. I'm like, what the fuck is a munch? And she's like, I don't know. It's like a social. And I was like, oh, okay.
Explain what a munch is, though, because I have a lot of people who ask that. If you don't
So
mind.
munches and sloshes, they're just social get-togethers with other kinky people. A munch is a place that sells food. And a slosh is a place that doesn't sell food but sells alcohol. So you go and get sloshed with your friends, or you go and munch on food and socialize with other kinky, like-minded individuals.
And what's wonderful about it is it's in a vanilla, safe setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So there's regular clothes. There's no pressure for you to do anything. It's just getting to know people in a safe vanilla setting.
It hands down, it is the best way to meet somebody that reaches out to you on any type of social media platform, whether it's Tinder or it's FetLife or it's Facebook, and they're like, hey, I want to meet you. Let's go do some kinky shit. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's meet in a munch first. If they say no, that's the first big red flag.
I agree with that. I love going to munches. It's how I built my community. That's where it starts. Because you meet your friend type people without the like, what are your kinks and what are you into? Which, yes, that comes, but you want to meet people who you vibe with as well.
So we're at the munch, and I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified because we're in a small town area. This is where I grew up, right? That I didn't really care about seeing somebody I knew growing up or seeing somebody that I might have worked with. I didn't want to walk into my parents. If I walked into this munch and my mom and dad are sitting there, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And we're going in. And I'm so preoccupied with this thought and concept. As soon as the munch was at this bar, and then there was a back area at the bar where we were isolated kind of away from the vanillas, where we could talk about everything we want to talk about. And we could be as loud as we want and talk about all the kinky shit and not affect somebody else. Because that is one of the big things at a munch is you have to be careful what you talk about, because the 17-year-old barista or waitress or host doesn't necessarily need to know how many anal beads you just yanked out of somebody like a lawnmower. It's that might kind of scar them a little bit. But
you're right.
But it's one of those things where as we walked in the back and there's double doors opened up, the hostess of the munch, the lady that was running the munch, was standing there, and Veronica was like, I know you, and she's like, I know you, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know anybody here. And it was like an egg timer, just time me down. She's fucking with me at this point because she's like, what the hell?
She's like, I've been to your house. I've been to your house.
I know what your bed looks like. Just all these bizarre things.
Our kids. And Jim's just like,
and it turned out, so she was in a triad, and their third's daughter was our son's best friend. And every play that they were in, everything they've ever done, he was Captain Hook, she was Smee. It's like everything they've done. So when we would sit there for the plays, they were sitting right next to us. We had birthday parties. They were over. So they were like, they've been in my house. And it took me a good, at least 3 minutes of just thinking and staring at her until
he was
ding-dong.
across the room staring at her. And then she and I were talking, and I just hear, ha! And I look over, he's looking at us, pointing.
Hollering your name.
There it is.
Yeah, it's
got it.
It's borderline Tourette's for me at this point. It just like runs out. But we met another triad kid that walked in at that time. And for those that don't know, a triad is a throuple. It's three. So it was a male and two females. It was a dominant and his two submissives. And they came in wearing Team Fluffy shirts, and they just kind of said was the name of their little triad. And they came and sat down, and they were like the epitome of California. Long, straight hair, and just very zen and laid back, and
very
like do things that make you happy, dude. Man, this is how you need to do it. And I was obsessed with his wife. Was just the most amazing person in the world, and so softly spoken. But when she did say, even though she was submissive and his submissive in nature, when she said something, everybody listened and everybody fucking shut the fuck up and was like, oh, yes, ma'am. It just had that nature out of it. They invited us to a mass meeting, but he told Veronica out of it, so yeah, we have a dungeon party afterwards. And I didn't know what a dungeon party was at this time. I went home and I looked it up and I started watching videos on Pornhub, and I was like,
bad idea.
Yeah, you're right. That's not how you
because it's
find
not
out.
like that.
What am I about to walk into? And I like weird shit. Even at that point, I still liked weird shit. So we get dressed up and we go down and we walk in, and it's a masked meeting. Masked is MAST. It's master and slaves together. It's a power exchange group. Every single city has a masked group, just like every city has a T&G group, which we'll probably talk about in a little bit. And it's usually more of a support group or a discussion group style of things. So we walk in, everybody's just sitting in just basic clothes. Everybody's comfortable. Nobody's like dressed up like we're going to a party. And Ronnie and I are like dressed to the fucking nines at this. And he's like, oh, good, you dressed up. And he's in like fucking shorts and flip-flops. And I'm like, oh. And they're just drinking beers and bullshitting and talking. This is also when I met my first pet, which I didn't know what pets were at that time either. And he was a cat. I kind of fucked up at one point because I'm very curious by nature, and I will ask questions that there's not much of a filter. It just hits and goes. So what's happening now is already what's happening immediately right here. And I was like, what's the difference between a pet and a furry? Are you like a furry? Like, what does that make? And
that's a super common question though.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Furries wear the costume. They could still be a dog in that sense. They could still be a pet, and that is their persona, and then they put the costume on of the persona. Whereas somebody that is a pet is literally that thing. Whatever they personify as. If they're a cat, they're a cat. If they're a pup, they're a pup. Treat them as you would your puppy, your dog, your cat. You know, and the more you treat them as that, the more they're going to appreciate that and love into it. If they're being a good boy and you call them a good boy and you give them a little scratch behind the ear, they're going to
enjoy it. You want to carry some treats around for them.
Absolutely.
Give them a treat. Usually they might have a handler with them. Yeah. Okay. So
first party, we rolled in. This is getting to our first party that we ever threw. So we go in there, and he knows this is our first thing we've ever done, first thing we've ever seen, and he's got a taser. And he's like, I was like, oh, that's fucking cool, man. I want to tase somebody. And he's like, yeah. And he just reaches over and zaps his submissives right on the clit. Oh. And zaps it. And she just like makes this little thing. Her eyeball goes this way. And she goes, oh. And just like loved it. Truly loved it. She was like,
I hated it, but I loved it so much.
Oh my God. I immediately started sweating. And I'm like,
don't try that at home. Yeah. The electroplay is legit and takes a lot of practice. But wait, is this at the Mast or is this a party?
It was at his house at the Mast.
Oh, okay.
So the Mast meeting would go about an hour. They would discuss stuff. And then they just kind of rolled it into a party. Yeah. It was always really small, like 10, 15 people at the most. It was a small house too. But he had a little back room that was his dungeon. And most people that have a dungeon in their house, it's usually like a bedroom or it's an old office or sometimes it's a shed in the backyard that they could just kind of put stuff in and you can go back and use it. For him, it was like an old office that went off of his kitchen. So he had a St. Andrew's cross set up, a massage table, a couple chairs, just some random stuff that was in there. It wasn't it was a little bit bigger than this, not much. And he puts her up on the cross facing him, and he like literally looks me dead in the eye. He goes, "You ready?" I'm like, and it just turns with steel toe boots, just toe kicks her right in the
crotch,
right in the hoo-ha.
Yeah.
Was that shocking to you?
Oh, not for her. Ronnie smiled. I was like, we could do this to people? I excused myself. I visibly, like, sweat beads came down my face, and I was like, I am uncomfortable. And I had to go outside and, like, get some air. And I kept going back in and watching more because I was like, this is fucking weird. I like this, but I'm confused.
So you were drawn to it. But I think what you've just described, I think, is a moment that so many kinksters actually experience. The kicking thing takes people... I'm still not used to it. I think I've been in the scene 17 years. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, they just got kicked.
Hard.
Yes.
Like, hard. So, and this is early summer around when this time went out. So with that group, you had to go to a BDSM 101, which is an introduction class that taught you the basics of what BDSM is, the history on it, similar to what I teach, like terminology, expectations of if you get invited to a house party. So you had to go to that class before you were allowed to go to anything else. Mm-hmm. And then you had to go to multiple discussion groups. At that time, they had what was a DS discussion group, a power exchange group that everybody sat together for 1 hour. And then the dominants and submissives split. And then they had talk with just submissives and just dominants.
Which is actually great. And by the way, those are the only communities I like to get involved in. I want to know that vetting is happening at that level so that everyone I play with has at least been educated a little bit. Like the biggest red flag for me personally and what I don't play with is just show up to the party and hope for the best.
That and do what you want, people.
Oof. Yes.
Anything you want.
Yeah, that's that.
Explain what you mean by that.
Oh, go for it.
So you'll have some people who will tell you, you can do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. Oh, really? Go wash my dishes.
You could get people to do that for you.
Go wash my dishes. Go clean my floor. Oh, you weren't particular or specific about what you wanted. And I don't even know what your hard no's are. So what if I want to start pulling on your fingernails? What if I want to put things underneath them? What if I want to put needles under your toes? I mean, you have to really be specific about what you mean. And that's part of negotiation is when you discuss your hard no's. And then you have some people who are like, well, I don't know what I want. okay. And I would rather have that.
100%.
Because then I pull out all my toys and we talk about them.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about them. I let them touch them, feel them, smell them, you know, a little sample. And anything we buy for ourselves, we try it out on ourselves. I mean, I don't go full swing because then I want to fight. But, you know, I just to get an idea
hand or thigh,
of what it feels like,
tap.
you know. And I'm like, okay, so if I personify that by like 10, you know, so you definitely have to be particular, especially when you don't know someone, because you have some predators out there. There are predators out there that will hurt you. A lot of times people don't tell because then people are going to know that you were doing BDSM shit or that you were involved in this and you probably deserved it because you're in this. Well, you do this anyway. So what difference does it make? Do you see where I'm?
I totally
so
see
it brings shame. And I think abuse, like actual abuse, is so hidden in the BDSM world because they felt they deserved it, or maybe I wasn't clear enough, or, you know, I said he could do anything. You know what I'm saying? So
I 100% agree. And even though everyone hates this book, 50 Shades of Grey, the community was no safer or better before that book came out than it is now. And I think it actually helped people at least talk about it.
Yeah, I think it made people a little bit safer because those of us who are in the scene now, we're like, all right, everything you saw in that movie, don't do it. You know, it's like...
It brings them to the forefront and brings them out to public and go to munches, and then we could teach them, like, here's a proper way to negotiate, here's a proper way to talk about these things, and here's a way to educate yourself on those different things that you want to do.
That is because so many people, the shame is what stops them from doing it, but then even if they work up the courage to join the scene, if something goes wrong, the shame is what stops people from ever admitting it, like you're saying.
So that party led us to getting involved in the community, and really we were in our what I often term is like the ooh shiny phase. Everything is so shiny, everything's great, I want to touch all these things and do all these things, I want to do it now, we're going to do it tomorrow, we're going to do it here, and just like I want to experience everything all at the moment. And we had really good mentors at that time. We're like, slow down, take a breath. It's going to be here tomorrow. It's going to be here next week. There's a class in a month. Why don't you go down to LA? There's a class down there. DomCon's coming into town, or Kink Fest is coming up in Portland. You know, take a moment and check out these classes before you try to throw yourself headlong in.
Jim is hard-headed.
Yeah, well, a bit, yeah. And I was...
Frenzy, Dom, Sub, Kink Frenzy, I think takes almost everyone down in the beginning.
Yeah.
It definitely can. Less play-wise, because I didn't really crossed one boundary that made me a little uncomfortable play, and that really slowed me down. Was like, oh, I really need to learn how to negotiate this better. And that was, we were both inexperienced, and we went in to go doing a scene, and it just didn't go out the way I pictured it. And nobody got hurt, nobody got injured out of it. It just really made me pull back on that sense. I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need to negotiate. But that's off topic. Halloween was coming up, and I always have a Halloween party, but I just met all of these wild, kinky, freaky, queer, amazing fucking people, and I was like, you know what? Let's throw. I think we threw 2 Halloween parties that year. We threw a vanilla one Friday, and then it was either one way or the other.
The kink one and then the other one.
You went back to back.
So we did throw.
Saturday.
Yeah. So we did. I think it was Friday, Sunday, because we had to get all the furniture out. So we decided, hey, we're gonna throw a kink party. The leaders that were in the community had furniture and stuff, and they were kind enough to come drop it off. And I didn't understand at the time that finding a house to do parties in was difficult at that time. But so I literally just went down the list of everybody I've met on FetLife at this point and invited everybody. Like, we had like 80 people in our house, and it was a big house and it was spread out perfectly out of it. But we had this huge kink party, and it was fucking wild. Now, one of our mentors at the time was like, you need to have this, no alcohol, none of these things. I'm like, how are you gonna have a really awesome party with no alcohol? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm used to like basic vanilla parties. So we still allowed alcohol, didn't have a lot of the precautions that we have now at a lot of our parties. And people end up having like a threesome in our kitchen and spilling like a bottle of Fireball. So that's where the rule came from of, for one, the kitchen is my sanctuary. When I cook, I love to cook, and the kitchen is my sanctuary. Don't fuck with my kitchen. And it's still today, don't go in my kitchen. Unless you have need to be in there, don't go in my kitchen. And I went in there the next morning knowing that they had a threesome, and it was sticky on the floor. And I was like, God damn it.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
so that's where that rule came in. And people were like, what do you mean no sex? Who did that? And we're like, every time there's a rule, every time there's a warning put on a box, what is it for?
Yeah,
somebody
we had
freaking did it.
one minor incident where somebody did fire play. We wasn't nearly as knowledgeable about it as he told us he was. The young girl at the end had a small scar from where they did that fire play down the line. She didn't have a problem with any of it, but the leadership did. And they're like, see, I told you need these things. And I am wildly thankful that they were all there at the time to kind of keep eyes on things and make sure things didn't get out of hand and too carried away. Because it very easily could have gone the wrong way.
On this point, what are your rules now for alcohol at your parties?
You can drink at the party, but once you start to drink, you can't play. Within BDSM, we do things that can be dangerous, depending on what level of stuff that you're doing. And anytime that you can be intoxicated or inebriated in some sense, even with marijuana, I don't feel that it's safe to practice BDSM. And I don't care if you do it all the time at your house. That's fine. Go do it at your house. But you're at a public space in a sense. You're in my home. I don't want that. So we have bracelets that go on people that come into the parties. When you have the bracelet on, BDSM's fine. Everything's on the board. You negotiate it, you do it, you're responsible for yourself. I am putting my trust in you that you have educated yourself and gone down this path until you prove me otherwise. Once you want to drink, you cut the bracelet off and you go have drinks. Now, I have staff that are walking around the party called dungeon monitors that are watching, and if anybody without a bracelet is playing, they immediately get escorted out of the party. It's not like, hey, you can't do that. You've already been warned. You've already been told. You've already read the rules online. You've read the rules in person. You've been told in person. There's no mistaking of, I didn't know. We make it very clear. So if somebody does break that rule, they just get escorted out and they don't get to come back.
I've been through your vetting process. It's a long form. There are trick questions in it where you have to go answer hidden answers. And I read the whole thing and I was still getting them wrong. I was like, damn, I really know this off by heart now.
I don't think it's as bad as it was in the past.
Anyway, okay. So the rules exist for a reason.
Yeah.
You've no sex in the kitchen. Any other rules that exist in your house?
There's a few.
The biggest one is don't be a dick. That is the biggest one.
I like that. I feel like that's a life rule, not just a cathedral rule.
I was just trying to visualize the rules as we come down. Obviously, rule 1 is don't be a dick. Obeying that, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have fun. Obviously, simple things like no hard drugs. This is not that kind of party. If you think that this is going to be some type of rave, some wild thing with, flashing lights and bouncing music constantly in every room, you're going to be disappointed. There's a big socialization area downstairs. We have play for everybody in any sense of it throughout the house. The garage gets opened up. There's massage tables that are out for things like needles play or wax play or fire cupping or just massage. There's different kinds of St. Andrew's crosses, whipping posts, spanking benches, cages for those that want to just kind of sit there and watch play or be a pup or whatever they need. We have rope areas with suspension rigs and different types of floor, rigging and tying. So we try to open it up as broad of play as we can imagine that's out of it. And if you want to see, if you've never seen anything, just get up there and watch. Go to the different rooms and observe. And then no firearms. It seems like common sense. It really should. I probably shouldn't bring a loaded gun to, some party, but every year I get at least one.
I could see that being common sense in California, but maybe there are some other states where it's very common to bring your firearm everywhere. So I could see why that would need to be a rule.
We're gun owners.
And,
and it's one of those things where we keep ours locked up and they're secure. We're in our house and we keep them locked up secure. But if I was going to go to somebody's house, even in like Texas, where it's like the more open laws, I would still ask before
leave it in your car,
walking in, or leave it in my car.
But when you go shopping at the mall in Texas, there are people with guns. So I could see how if you're going to the mall, you also might think, oh, I'll just show up to the party. Not saying it's right, just that it could be. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so first party.
You throw your Halloween party.
Yeah, and then 2 days later, we threw our vanilla Halloween party, and that was the last vanilla party I've ever thrown. The difference in respect was astounding. For one, the respect of the space. Like, most of our friends, we were in a small town in rural California where it's very red, it's very country, it's very Bud Light. And the beer bottle tops just strewn everywhere and cigarette butts just thrown everywhere. And we're not smokers, but if you want to smoke, there's a smoker area. Go outside and smoke. But they just discarded all their stuff. It was
disrespectful. You didn't realize how disrespectful people are in a vanilla setting, whereas in a kink setting, everybody is so thrilled to have a place. Then they throw their things away. Or when you're shutting down the party, people are like, "What do you need?"
Yeah,
cleaning
and they come around and they help, clean the space and move furniture back and things that we need. We usually have a takedown crew anyway, but it's wonderful not to have to walk around and clean up after people.
100%.
So that party, that was the last vanilla party. As far as our first party here goes,
so there's things that I've always had in place when we would do our parties. Like there's always a registration table that's off to the side from the party. Like if you come to our house out of it, you come in the front door, it's sequestered away from any type of party play that's going on. So somebody that's checking in doesn't see anything that's out there.
They get to see the littles.
You know? Yeah, that's it.
They get to see the littles.
People
and
coloring.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. And having a good time up there.
If it's a small party and the play is only upstairs and it's only socialization downstairs, I have 1 DM on and 2-hour shifts. If there's play both up and downstairs, I have 2 DMs on at any given time because one's upstairs, one's downstairs, and they'll just kind of roam around and do their stuff. Aside from that is just kind of the behind the scenes type of stuff of like the setup crew, the breakdown crew, getting the house arranged. Like we have to move all the furniture and get things like shifted with the couches and then set up some of the St. Andrew's crosses or all the furniture. We have a lot of furniture. Aside from our vanilla furniture, we have a lot of kink furniture.
You do.
And it's,
well, we don't want people to be bored.
Yeah.
So nobody's yelling beige at our house. So
definitely not. There are so many rooms. There is so much. And I haven't even been into your garage now that you've added even more.
Yeah, we got about 5 PlayStations set up in the garage to be able to do stuff. Because it's a big 3-car garage. Because of how I am, like, and I do a lot of woodworking and I've built almost all the furniture that we own. All my stuff folds up into the walls or it gets stored, you know, stacked underneath each other or behind shelves. So we have curtains kind of covering everything in there. So when you come in, it doesn't look like a garage. I mean, obviously, you know you're in a garage, but it's like we put insulation up on the garage doors and everything closes out. We have colored lighting and everything that goes in there, but it's nice space.
I've seen pictures. I need to, I don't know. And I've been to your house since you've put this in. It's just there are so many other spaces to explore. Like that's how big we're talking.
That's a big house.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about from throwing your first kinky Halloween party in California to, I mean, I think it's interesting to note you're talking about this small town. So this is happening all over America. People,
every town has kink communities.
I know that even the smallest towns, there might be like at least 4 people out of 200 that there are people out there. It's just about finding each other. Stuff is happening and people are willing to drive. So you're getting a large catchment area coming into the city just to experience this. So you're kind of never really alone with it.
Like where we were, they only did something, every 6 months?
Every 6 months, yeah.
The munches were extra important.
Yeah.
It also made it a little more cliquey in that sense. But still, that's what made people get out there and meet others because you're not going to get invited to anything. You'd have to wait for the 6-month party in order to do something that was cool. So yeah, I think it's definitely everywhere.
I have a question, and I get this a lot. Sometimes the kink communities are known for being a little bit cliquey, and I personally don't think it's on purpose. It's sort of like when you're meeting the same people week over week, month over month, you form a close friend group. And then when new people join, it can be a little intimidating for the new person to show up. What advice do you have for any new person showing up who feels like a little self-conscious or socially awkward? Do you have any tips and tricks for that person?
Talk to your event host. Talk to the munch organizers mainly, you know, and the community leaders that are out there. If you are going to your first munch or you've been to 3 or 4 munches and you've never really been able to click because you're just super shy, send us a message. Send a message out to them and say, hey, I'm really shy. I have a difficult time initiating conversation, but I am interested in these things, you know, and we can sit you with somebody of your same age genre, the same gender. I'm not going to be a matchmaker. I'm not going to, you know, link you up with somebody to be a play partner. But if you're an older male, I will sit you next to other older males. If you are looking for littles and age regression play, I will sit you next to the other littles and introduce you to those people that have those like-minded kinks. You know, and it's on you at that point to initiate contact and conversation and discuss things.
Yeah, but you're not like a life coach to teach people how to create that type of connection.
Yeah, I often get people that were like, hey, I'm looking for this kind of person. I'm like, I am not a matchmaker. Yeah, I absolutely know somebody that you're talking about, but I'm not. I'm just not a matchmaker. It's just not my job. And there's so much other stuff that we have to do and go through with it. That it doesn't mean I don't do it when I have friends and I'm like, you need to meet this person. After a while, and you know, when I know people and I trust people. But yeah, reach out to your event coordinators and they will sit you down with other people. You know, if you're under 35, there's a TNG group in every single city.
And what does TNG stand for?
TNG is the next generation. We're a bunch of fucking nerds. So Star Trek, the next generation Star Trek, every single city that has any kink group or any type of kink group has a TNG group as well that has TNG leaders. If you are over 35, leave them the fuck alone. Don't go there. If you're a 50-year-old single dude, don't go there and just sit at the table and prey on these 20-year-olds. Let them fucking be and let them do what they want to do. I'm 46. I don't know what they do at these munches. I imagine they're out there playing hacky sack and frisbee and standing in weird anti-social circles, not talking to each other because, you know, that's what kids do. Let them be. Let them go out to the whole thing. My submissive is 26. There's a big age gap. There's a big age difference onto it. If they want to go to a TNG munch, then that's good. They're 26, they can go. If they want me to go with them, I can go as their partner. I can go as an accompanied person, but I can't go by myself. So it gives them a place to meet other people, like-minded people that are still within the same age range. Because often, and as a community leader, one thing I've seen so often is older dudes hitting on younger, feminine presenting people. It's constant and it's nonstop all the time. And
creepy.
It's very creepy, and especially as you get into like your mid 50s and your early 60s and you're still hitting on 21-year-olds. It's like,
I do see it a lot too. And it's one of those things. What are you going to do except maybe try, if it gets intense, you got to pull them aside and be like.
I've had 4 now within the community that I repeated talks. And I'm a firm believer that just about everybody can be educated and can act like grown-ass adults. I give multiple opportunities, sit down and I explain why the behavior is bad and I explain how the behavior was bad. And I give them an opportunity, just enough rope to kind of hang themselves on it. And the next party, if they do it again, I immediately pull them aside. And this time, instead of in private, this time it is now in public. Like, hey, I told you about this. You can't do that. I need you to go apologize to this person right now. And if the behavior corrects at that point, then it corrects. And we can go through with that. If it doesn't, then this isn't a business. This isn't some type of public entity onto it. I'm just going to ask you not to fucking come around.
Yeah, and you have that power then to stop them from coming around to your parties.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's the greater good, for my opinion. I want to protect the most amount of people that come into our community, our home, our lifestyle. And if I get a dozen complaints about the same person, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, that's a huge problem. And that ultimately does become your responsibility then to make sure they're not coming into the community anymore.
Trying to avoid and not have to deal with it anymore, but it seems like I've fallen right back into the pattern again.
Yeah, so. Can't help it.
You can move cities, but you're still going to end up being the same person no matter what city you're in. Yeah. What is that? No matter where you go, there you are.
There you are. And that's been a big change for him too, because he's always believed that everybody's teachable until we found an unteachable at our other club. We found an unteachable.
Yeah, he was wild.
And he knew how to move the line. Well, you said I couldn't do that, but you didn't say I couldn't do that. And it was and it just got to the point where, we would have new people show up and then those people wouldn't come back anymore because of that one person. And so Jim put a thing in with him. It was like, okay, you cannot do this. If they are below this age, leave them alone. And then turn around. He was good for a minute and then he turned around and did it. And Jim was like, okay, that's it. And he finally banned him from coming to stuff. But it was it really upset him that he wasn't able to teach this person. And it's it's not about you teaching that person. That person knew damn well. They just were going to toe that line and move it as much as possible. And those are dangerous people.
Some people just have predatory behavior and that makes them not teachable. Okay, so you honed this skill over time then.
Over 15 years, yeah.
Yeah, so how did you start? You go from throwing your first kinky Halloween party to opening, what was it, a fetish club?
At the first mass meeting we went to, we met, and at the munch, we met
another couple
that turned into, he's one of my closest friends in life. Still to this day, even different states, we're still very close friends. They had a large home, we had a large home. We would throw parties. Once a month, we'd throw a big party. I wanted to keep throwing these parties. I had such a good time with it. I wanted to keep doing it. So they would throw one at their house, and then next month we'd both throw one at our house.
And these parties were free.
Yeah, we weren't charging at the time.
We weren't charging.
Whoa.
It was just,
but we didn't know any better.
We just wanted to have a great party.
Yeah.
And then somebody was like, you guys need to be charging people for these parties to come to, because now you're not waiting 6 months.
We were sitting in a hot tub. It was the 4 of us, and then the 5th guy was an attorney. And he was like, you really need to charge. We're like, yeah, we should probably charge. We would talk about that forever, because we would spend $400 to $500 per party.
Absolutely.
Just to buying the food or buying stuff. We would do the live sushi platters where you have a naked model on the bottom, banana leaves covered with sushi, and everybody eats the sushi off, roll the banana leaf off until you have a naked model on the table, which was fantastic.
Can you bring
event.
those back? Or?
Yeah,
we did one.
It's just expensive.
We did one. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
They're awesome and they're fun. But we went back and forth throwing parties for at least a couple years. We would do this, and when we were going through this stuff, and we were sitting in a hot tub, and it was the 2 couples, myself, Veronica, and my best friend, his ex-wife now. And then this 5th was we found out at this time that he was an attorney, and he's like, you really need to charge. And Jason and I were like, yeah, we should get our own place, rent some type of spot for it. But then we started hashing out the details, just kind of like joking around in the hot tub. It came into the legalities of stuff and where we lived in California. And like, well, how do we get around this stuff? He was like, well, I'm an attorney. And it just kind of like, it buried down into it to where a month later, we all sat down. We're like, fuck it, man. We spend so much money doing this at our house. We could basically pay for either a mortgage if we bought the place or the rental costs on it, just how much we spend already. So we took out a loan and we found a place. It took 9 months to find the right place and get around some of the caveats that we had because it was a small town. And I was very open about what I was looking for and what we were going to use it for. And since it was a very conservative type of area, I got blacklisted immediately. So where my phone number was already on the list. And when I would call, they're like, hey, we know who you are. We don't have anything for you.
Oh, damn. That's kind of scary. And,
yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah, it sucks. That's what it is. Because like no one was coming for you, but they were also not showing you places. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. We got around it by using a residence.
We rented a house.
We rented a big house in the middle of an avocado orchard that had so much ample parking in the middle because of all the vehicles they had to use to harvest the avocados out. Mm-hmm. And it was in the middle of like 10 acres, way up in the foothills of California, overlooking like everything. You could even see the ocean way off at a distance beautiful. On it. Wow. It was a gorgeous house, but it was perfect for throwing parties because even if we were super loud, we're in the middle of an orchard, nobody's going to care. And I would still, mind-blowingly, I would have like, because we were near a college, near Cal Poly, we would have young single females that would come out here by themselves driving up this long, dark, lonely road covered in just avocado trees. Couldn't have been any more creepier if I tried to make it that way, like Halloween style. They would come up by themselves and then come up into the house and attend the 101. And I was like, I would have never, I'm a 6'2", 255-pound man. I would have never been that brave to come through. And these young girls just came out hard charging.
I would have done the same thing. Have done balls, similar things.
So yeah, that we found the place. That was in 2016.
It was
we officially opened.
Yeah, because we shut down, I think, maybe a year before COVID, because COVID would have took us out.
Yeah.
The year up. We shut down February of...
Because we were living...
Yeah, we shut down
when
right
COVID
before...
stopped. Yeah, right before COVID.
And that kind of led into how you asked before about how did we pay for a lot of that stuff. A lot of it came out of our pockets in the beginning, and it was really expensive. Did. The BDSM community in itself tends to not have a lot of money when it was out there. So at least out there, and I found it nationwide, it tends to be the case. There generally isn't a ton of money when you're doing that. We had a lot of complaints about just the cost, and at that time, it was $20 to come to a party, half price off for students, and felt like most of our people were students, so we were only getting $10. And we would have been lucky sometimes if 15 people showed up towards the end of the time period that we were running that, and that's a little
and $20 is reasonable.
I think so too.
It was like, some of the people that were complaining about it, and I'm just like, or they'd want to volunteer, and they're well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that, or they didn't want to do registration, or they didn't want to do kitchen. They just wanted to be a dungeon monitor so they could walk around looking at everything. And it's like, it's the need.
Or be in charge.
Yeah.
Or be in charge. It's like, it's the need. It's what we need at this time.
It's like, let me explain the definition of volunteer to you. It's not do what you want for 2 hours or however long. Yeah.
It's...
So in the beginning of the first few months, everything was fine. We were getting 50, 60 people showing up at all the parties. So we were open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we were getting a consistent run of people that were showing up. It was novel. It was new, right? Everybody was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. We finally have our own space. And it was great. We didn't have to struggle with any of it. And then it took a massive taper, like really fast.
Because too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
So we wanted to keep the space open. So we started coming out with different ideas of different things to do, trying to have niche parties like Little's Party or, specific like rope events or teach different classes. And this is where I kind of got into the fact where I started to meet a number of different high level instructors to come through and teach things like whips or pegging or knife play. We had one to do consensual non-consent classes that
amazing
were phenomenal classes. We still weren't making enough money. All of the stuff that was getting provided, but we would have these guys come out of town, come up from LA or in state from a different area, and then we'd have like 15 people show up. And it's like, oh, you guys are killing me. One of our friends suggested throwing a swinger party. And I was like, the swingers and BDSM are two different worlds.
They are.
Swingers think BDSM people are gross because like, why would you do that to somebody? And then BDSM people are like, don't touch me with your organs. That's just disgusting. It was weird. So they introduced us to one of their friends who hosted a number of swinger events all the time. And I was like, fuck it. I definitely don't qualify or classify as a swinger. I don't like having sex with strange people. It's a buildup for me on things. I had one night stand when I was like 17 and a little over 17, shortly before I met Veronica. And I felt so gross with it and I hated it. And I've never gone down that road.
It just wasn't for you.
Yeah.
So we we're like, fuck it, let's do it. And we brought them in and they did all of the advertising and all of the promotion from it. And we had short of 80 people at this house to throw a swinger party.
Now, keep in mind is that swingers have money.
Yes.
They're willing to pay money, like single guys to get into a swinger party. They'll pay $80 to $100
$150.
I've seen 200.
Yeah, on the premise that maybe I'll get laid. The way we've always done it is we do a balance. We don't just let all, because it ends up being a sausage party. Just all, you got all this money, but now you just have all these swinging dicks walking around mad because they can't get laid.
So once we had single women sign up, then we would let the single men sign up and keep that balance going. Or if we had a triad sign up and there was 2 women and 1 male, sometimes we had 2 males and one woman. It was an eye-opening experience. Oh my God.
Because their ideas of consent are not the same as BDSM. And so we had dungeon monitors walking around. They're like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to monitor this because, a BDSM party, somebody will come to you. They don't touch you. They're like, do you hug? They ask permission before they even shake your hand. They want to know how you wish to be greeted. Swingers is not the same.
Or
they touch you. Yeah, they touch you. They like rub your back. They're like, oh, do you mind? But you're already doing it. So you didn't even ask me first. You're already doing it.
I just stopped wearing kilts because they would just come up like, are you wearing this the right way? And immediately come up.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that might stem where like, I just don't like people touching me in general. But now I really don't like people touching me.
You've been burned.
He stopped wearing kilts because they would just go right up under his kilt.
Oh, now we all suffer because of this.
He looks magnificent.
So at this party, a couple of our DMs came downstairs. They're like, you need to go upstairs. Because the way the house was, it was a tri-level house. It was three levels, but it kind of went up along a slope of the house. So we had a basement that was great for like the dungeon because it was a basement. And it was like stonework and it was a basement. And then the primary level, and then you went upstairs into the master bedroom, which was the big and spread out, had a balcony, and it was gigantic, absolutely gigantic bathroom with all tile everywhere. So any type of waterworks play, BDSM-wise,
we were able to put 12 people in the shower. That's how big the shower was.
Yeah,
this sounds amazing.
Fantastic. What unbelievably great find to have this place. So I go upstairs, and mind you, I've never seen anything like this stuff. Even with porn, it was never like my genre to watch stuff. So we had this huge bondage bed that was built out of solid steel. The whole thing was steel out of it. So you could suspend as many people as you wanted to suspend on it. It's not going, it won't even budge.
You really did invest a lot. Like I know how much those beds cost.
So we had a sex swing set up. The Sibian was in there. We had a St. Andrew's cross, a spanking bench or a fucking bench that night, and multiple areas to play. And when I first walk in the door, people are strewn all over the floor. There's 2 girls on the Sibian. I don't even know how that physically was working onto it, but I think one was just making out with the other while one was riding it. 3 dudes around her, multiple blowjobs happening in 2 different directions. There's somebody, they pulled the swing all the way flat, so they were now getting spit roasted on the swing, just back and forth. The spanking bench was getting the same thing, little Eiffel Tower happening, and then there's people strewn out along the floors onto it. There's 4 couples on the bed in different areas, with one sitting on the corner getting a blowjob. It was a little mixed couple, a little cute, adorable little mixed couple, very fit. He just like leans back all of a sudden, and she's like, yeah, and he's like, hey, and you can't really hear anything because the music's pumping and loud and everything, and all I could smell is like just dick and fucking rubber. And I just like immediately going over to try to fucking open windows as I'm stepping over people. There's nowhere to fucking walk and step. So he like slides himself between like fucking rows of hot dogs, man, slides himself up the bed. She slides herself up the bed, and he just reaches up to the top of because there's like monkey bars on the top of this bondage bed, and just lifts his legs up and just over all of these people having sex, drops down on one foot and grabs a condom out of the plate that was on this table over there, puts it in his mouth. It was almost like it was just trajectory of aiming, and then like leaps up, grabs it, and then monkey bars back over, drops on the bed, takes a condom off, and they start immediately fall into having sex.
Jim's expression, he goes,
oh! I'm looking around, like, how does nobody reacting to this? This can't be the natural thing to happen out here. I'm like,
oh God. But all of us kinky folk, BDSM folk, we're just like,
it's the most bizarre.
Well, Jim, you just had me so caught in your I was like, I couldn't even react. I'm thinking, when you go into therapy, maybe for the first time, they're like, do you have any core memories? I feel like you just shared an adult core memory.
That was
like, damn. You had me so captivated. I'm like, I wish I had been there.
It was wild, man. And it also came where we had a rule of of Don't Stick Your Dick in the Salsa came from the same party, because we had this big round table that would like spin and open and stuff. And we had all the food and this whole spread and charcuterie boards. And, presentation is big for me in a sense. And like, it's a big deal for me in that sense. There was a bowl of salsa, and this one guy was
very tall.
Like 6'9" or 6'10". He was very, very tall young man, but his donger was like a little above the table, and he kind of turned and just drug his dick right through the salsa and didn't react or nothing, didn't say anything. He's just standing there and he's talking to me, and I'm just, all I can do is look at his dong as just dripping off, and I'm like, did you... You had to feel that. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you just drug your dick through my salsa.
Which changed that rule where you couldn't be naked from this point on, no naked, because you had to freaking do that. And he thought he thought it was so funny. He was like, bruh,
now there's no salsa.
Funny. Now there's no salsa.
Oh yeah, now there's no salsa. But I want that on a t-shirt. Like, don't drag your...
Don't stick your dick in the salsa.
Yeah. I might put that on a t-shirt for us.
Raising our boys, especially when you have two boys, it's difficult sometimes to get things to stick in their head and to remember like important rules and important things that go on, and especially when they're young. So I would come up with shocking ways to like say things, especially when they're coming in, like when they were like 12 and 13. One of the rules was like, don't stick your dick in crazy. They're like, what does that mean? And then I would get to explain it. Like, how
would you explain that?
Get to know somebody before you try to have sex with them, because sex complicates everything. But saying sex complicates everything doesn't stick in their head. They're like, okay. And then they just run off because they're young boys and they want to have sex. But when you say don't stick your dick in crazy, you're like, wait, what is that? Yeah. What happens? But yeah, a lot of those rules are in place for a reason, in that sense. Somebody did something unbelievably stupid at one of the parties, and then I had to make a rule out of it.
Or shocking. I've been at a party where something shocking happened, and now I have to ask, is there a no fucking pumpkins rule?
No. That's still... As long as you let us know, we could put a tarp down, because it made a mess.
Yeah, well, that's just disrespectful, but it's good to know that you can still fuck a pumpkin at the cathedral.
What's going to happen this Halloween again? They're coming back, and we're actually going on a pumpkin hunt.
So that was something that was notorious that happened. So we had 100 and something people in the house. And they were all upstairs for this event. And they asked, hey, so every year we do this. We fuck a pumpkin. Can I fuck a pumpkin? And Jim was like, I like weird shit. Sure, let's do it. So they took one of the pumpkins that we had just sitting there, and they did whatever. And then they took the pumpkin upstairs, and they were like, all right, now we got to get them hard. And so they had a fluffer come over, and they were messing with them and stuff. And then all you hear, and we're downstairs, she's hard. Yeah, and the whole house is rumbling. The entire house is just, I've never heard anything like this. And we're just like, what?
True mob mentality.
It was like, what's going on? And then one of our DMs comes down and is like, yeah, Jim, something's about to happen in your room that hasn't happened ever before. And Jim's like, our room's seen a lot of shit. They ain't seen this. And so we're trying to get up there. People are lining the stairs going up. The entire loft is full. The entire hallway with the cutouts looking into the bedroom is full. There is like no place to go. And just the chanting. Now, keep in mind, my youngest son still lives with us. He's
23.
He's 23, 24.
He's still your son.
He's still my son. Yeah. So he, he doesn't come out. When he knows there's a thing happening, he doesn't come out. I'll bring him food or whatever. But he's hearing all this chanting.
Fuck that pumpkin. Fuck that pumpkin. And then in the middle of it, somebody changed the chant from fuck that pumpkin to pumpkin pie. And it just reverberated the entire house.
The house.
I can't imagine what my neighbors might have thought.
So they are again coming, and there will be the second annual pumpkin fucking at Cathedral. And there's going to be an event where we're going to go to a pumpkin patch, and we are going to let loose all of our people to find the perfect
butthole pumpkin.
Butt pumpkin. We want a pumpkin that looks like it has cheeks.
This is so well thought out. I love how you have taken this on, and you're like,
fucking great.
How do we up the ante and make this even better?
So the person that finds the best butthole pumpkin gets a free pass into the party. Now the party has grown over the years out in Vegas. Now we have to cap it out at 100. And it's a big house. It's 4,000 square feet, but it's also only 4,000 square feet. So once you start getting into the over 100, it gets really crowded. And even though we did refurbish the garage and have all the play spaces in the garage, it'll still be waiting times. Like every play spot will be utilized, and then as soon as it's done, somebody's going to be jumping in and going. But yeah, so for this party, whoever finds the best pumpkin that we rate on gets a free ticket into the party. And then 2 weeks later, we're going to have a pumpkin carving contest. Whoever does the best pumpkin carving, which I think I'm going to win this one. I got some good ideas. I do good pumpkins.
You do Halloween well. But
I'm rating it, so I can't rate for myself.
He does good pumpkins.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. But so that's going to happen again this year.
I'm going to try and catch it this year. So you came out.
You should.
As a host, you did a solid and you came outside to everyone who was outside. And we did hear stuff, but we were just like, it's a party. And you said, there is someone upstairs fucking a pumpkin if you want to see that. And I thought that was so kind because you wanted to make sure no one missed this spectacle.
It's some weird shit. And it's rare that, it's not something that, if it's something I haven't seen before, I'm pretty sure it's something most people haven't seen before.
And I was so grateful. However, I was deep in a game of never have I ever with Jell-O shots that you had made that were delicious.
Yeah, I've already started the Jell-O shots for this year.
Oh.
So it's
Jim
not
is an
making
alchemist.
Them. Yes.
When it comes to Jell-O shots.
Well, they're full on.
They're cocktails.
Cocktails and Jell-O, really.
They were really good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm requesting the candy corn ones again. I know they are intricate. That's a lot of work.
They take the longest to make out of it just because you have to make each layer has to.
I ate 75% of them. I'm telling you, I made everybody give me their candy corn ones because we were all very drunk on Jell-O shots.
Those took days for him to figure out that white layer.
The white layers, because there's no white Jell-O.
No, so what did
you have to get gelatin and use like a cream.
Whatever it was perfection. And I hate candy corn, but I love your candy corn Jell-O shots. So
nice. I like it.
I'm coming back for those. And now to actually see someone fuck a pumpkin.
Yeah. Lady V's coming to town, so they're gonna do a big pet intensive on Saturday as well. Where it's called Bite Club, where it's gonna be a pet mosh. I personally have never been. I've known of pet moshes, and we know a lot of pets that are out here. But we have a big pet mosh that's gonna go on Saturday throughout the daytime. We'll probably have a barbecue and stuff for Halloween the day after as well.
People hang out in the pool.
Will it be hot enough for the pool? Did you say
daytime wise?
Yeah, probably.
Halloween is still in the 90s.
Yeah, I know.
So as long as it's daytime, the water will be chilly, but it'll be nice and
survivable.
Sunny. We won't have to cover the pool with shade everywhere because it'll be.
That's what I love about Vegas. It's hot nearly all year round.
I hate it.
So I think over the course of the conversation, we've kind of addressed a lot of the questions that I got on my Instagram story when I said that I was going to be interviewing you. But one person asked a really interesting question, and I'm not even sure where it would come out of, but they asked, since you've been in this world for so long and you've hosted parties and own an event space, do you ever see couples sort of just getting into it or it not going well? Because there's a lot of drama and jealousy, I imagine, that comes up.
Yeah, on all sorts of different levels. The one that I think of the most, it's not really a couple. We teach an introduction to BDSM 101, right? So we call it BDSM 101. It's really just an introduction to it where we go over history, terminology, etiquette at parties, munches, sloshes, all the different stuff that you need to really understand when you're coming into how to be safe on FetLife. Unbelievably fantastic website if people aren't on it. It's like kinky Facebook. But when we had the event space, when we had the clubhouse, I would teach it an hour before every party and I condensed it. Right now it's like a 2-hour class, but back then I could do it in 45 minutes because I geared it just towards my party, just towards my event space, what I needed them to know. Took out the history and all the stuff. And I had 5 or 6 people that attend every single time, which was common, but it was also every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and sometimes Thursdays. So I'm teaching the class, I'm going through, and I always have an army of people that are volunteering and helping and doing stuff. And I had all the stuff in my car that needed to get unloaded, like the drinks and supplies and stuff for that party. And they start unloading stuff and coming through, and one of the girls that's sitting directly in front of me just goes deathly pale, and she screams, "Daddy, no!" and then sprints out of the house running. And I turn around, and here's one of my volunteers that's been doing this for years, just standing there holding a flat of water going, fuck, man. Where his daughter is now just freshly turned 18, was trying to come up to the clubhouse and go through it. He had to set the water down to go through it.
Wait, when she said daddy, she meant her
actual father, which was hilariously funny at the time because he just started dating a girl that was the same class with his daughter. That also, so when you talk about drama that unfolds, that came down the line too, and that was more.
That's a different type of relationship.
Different type of drama.
Yeah. Wow.
So we've had couples that have had beefs and things that go down. It's not generally at the parties. Every once in a while you'll see something small happen, but people usually contain themselves at the parties really well. And it's also one of the things I talk about at the time is like, you know, if something happens and you are uncomfortable with the situation, especially when you bring in sex, because sex complicates everything. You know, we've delved into kind of the swinger community and stuff. We have a lot of friends that are swingers and we've gone to events and stuff. If something happens that upsets you, don't make a scene in that moment, but bookmark that shit and then talk about it with your partner later. You know, you have a finite number of times that you get to go out and do things with your partners and with your people. So enjoy the times that you do get to go out and do those things, but make sure you correct any behavior that upsets you so bad later on.
Yeah, that's
because we've seen that where, you know, it was the first time he saw her have sex with somebody else and he broke down. He was sobbing. And
on me.
And then the guy who she had sex with was just, you know, he got a little annoyed about the whole thing because it was just weeks later he was annoyed because the person wanted to talk to him and he was like, it was a party. It was a swinger party. You came there to do those things and then you can't, you know, so.
You can't expect someone else to do the repair work when they are technically a stranger. And like I talk a lot about repair work. I talk about consent, aftercare, but this is one of those scenarios where that person didn't owe this partner.
Didn't owe him a thing because
that's the case. Yeah, it's what you sign up for.
I have some memories of one specific thing that I have a problem with is when people let their kinks kind of overflow into some of the party sections. And when I say that is like if you have a specific fetish, if you fetishized an entire genre of people or a race of people, like the BBC fetish. We had a white couple that came to one of the parties and one of my closest friends was a younger black male. And we hung out in the kitchen and bullshit and talk and, you know, joke all the time. And he approached him and asked, hey, my wife really would like to play with you. You down? And he was like, fuck yeah, let's go get it. And in the middle of it, she was like, oh, give me that black dick. And then like just kept making it, pushing more and more racism into the scenario of it until when he just like stood back, didn't even say anything and just walked away.
He faked an orgasm.
And came out of it.
I feel bad he even had to do that though.
You know, so
orgasm to escape.
It's like be wary. I'm not going to kink shame anybody for the things that they have at all. But you know, you need to discuss those things with people as it comes into it because it really made a very awkward scenario for everybody coming through with it, and even us down the line moving forward.
And there's sources for people who feel that way. Like I got a text message from a guy who was like, well, I guess you could tell what I'm into, and he sent me a picture of his white girlfriend wearing an afro wig and a daishiki.
Look,
Whoa! I don't know why I continue to be surprised by these things, but
I showed it to our friend, and he was like, I don't know if I want to laugh at that or go kick his ass.
That's how I feel too.
Because it was funny, but at the same time, it was not funny.
I know exactly because it's like that is so ridiculous.
You're like
how could the audacity? Like all of the things, and I don't know. I was
like, bro, you could have kept that to yourself. You know,
before we opened the club.
If you want to fuck her with all of that on, you go right ahead. You know that, but
because it made it non-consensual for those third parties. You know, and that's the problem. It's fine to have those kinks, but you got to be consensual when it comes through. We had somebody show up to our house when we lived in California before the clubhouse that showed up in a full SS Nazi uniform, like cap and all with a little cane onto it, and I was like, nope, not today, Satan. It ain't happening.
You didn't ask. I mean, and there's military play and there's play and kink for that. And there are people who love that, and that's fine. We don't yuck anybody's yum. You know, as long as you're not hurting children or animals.
Yeah.
You know, but what two consenting adults do is what two consenting adults do, and what they like is what they like. But you do have to realize that consent is all the way around. When you're coming to a BDSM party, you are consenting to, I'm going to see some shit. I'm going to see somebody get beat. I may see blood. I may see this. I may see that. But if you're doing something that's extremely niche, you do have to say, hey, how you feel if I come wearing this? And we'll be like, might not be.
Not the place.
Because that's like somebody rolling up in a Klan uniform at one of my parties talking about, hey, this is my kink. I'm like, you can kink your ass right on out my house. That's what you can do. But
that would be so polite if that scenario were actually happening.
Not quite how it would play out.
But you know, so it's like, you know, you just got to keep your, you know.
Yeah,
be mindful.
I think you did a really great job of very politely explaining that. And I have a friend on TikTok, the parasocial relationships that exist when you are on TikTok, but they are they're a pup, and one of the things they do is they do a lot of diversity education in the space, and they explained it really well to me, because even I said, I don't understand how to explain to people that race play in a public party is not okay, but age play is. And it's the idea that people understand, and you know this better than anyone, but they explained it to me, people understand that age play is fantasy and imagination, whereas race play, someone from the outside reality. Cannot tell if that's your kink, and exactly that, it could very much be seen as reality.
And then somebody sitting there coloring isn't hurting anyone.
I was just going to say, at our house, at our parties, the age play that happens at our parties is, I've never seen any sexual
There's
age
no
play.
sex related. It's not sex related.
And I'm not saying that age play and sex don't overlap, because what people do in the comfort of their own home is their own thing. But the littles that I know, it doesn't happen. You know, if you go to a scout meeting that's out here, like one of our subgroups is a Littles group. It's, you know, the Las Vegas Little Scouts. They're going and they're making, you know, sashes, and they're doing ribbons and, you know, buttons and things to put on their stuff. They're building houses of forts, and it's Littles play. They're drinking juice boxes and eating snacks, food, and
they're littles.
Couples party. Yeah, they're littles. There's no age that
they've got
no sex that's
stuffies.
involved.
They're walking around with their stuffies, and there's nothing.
In the cutest PJs you've ever seen. Sometimes
they are not hurting anyone.
So we had our quarterly house meeting last night, where I cook a big dinner and we talk about everything, because we have a lot of subgroups that go on to it. And it was requested of me to definitely point out that adult baby diaper play and general littles play are two vastly different things, and basically very separate groups.
That's a solid point.
So I got to add that to my 101.
And also topic for another podcast probably is that type of difference.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice do you have to people who want to get involved in their local community, but they're nervous or shy? Like, what would you like to say to them?
So first, get on FetLife. It's the easiest way to get out to it. Now, there's some communities that use Meetup. There's some communities that use Facebook and have private groups that you can find, if you can find them. FetLife is the easiest way. Make your account, keep it private. And this goes into the 101. I'll spiel off it a little bit. When you make your account, don't have any identifiable things on your initial profile. Your pictures are set to FetLifers, and they're set to friends only. So set anything with your face or anything identifiable tattoos or anything that are on that to friends only. And then go nuts with it. Upload, explore yourself and all the freedom that you want out of it, but keep it private. Once you're done and you make your profile and you have, you know, built it the way you want, go to groups and then events and look for the different things. If you click events, if you're in a major city, it's going to be overpopulated with sex parties and gangbangs and glory holes and other sorts of, it's a sexually charged fetish website. Is the best way I can explain it. But you can, at the very top, you can click on educational, you can click on socials, you can click on parties. If you exclude all that and leave the sex parties out of it, you can find your socials and find your munches, and then reach out to the event host that's there and say, hey, this is my first munch. I'm coming out. I'd really want to meet people. Here's some of my basic kinks, you know, and they're like, great. It's so wonderful to have you there. And then when you show up, they'll sit you down next to other extroverted people that can kind of carry the conversation for you sometimes, or just, you know, maybe you might click with somebody that has the like-minded kinks, and you guys can really explore things together on your own.
And being a shy person, it's also an opportunity for you not to be, because nobody knows you. You can just go in there and just do the things that you ordinarily would not say or do. Like, you ordinarily in a vanilla space wouldn't go introduce yourself to somebody. You know, a munch with kinky people is a spot where you can be yourself.
Yes.
So you can step up and talk, and nobody's going to judge you. And that's the big thing, is nobody's going to judge you. You may say something weird and somebody be like, okay, that was a little weird. But, you know,
we're surrounded by weird people.
We're all kind of weird. So it's fine. It's just fine. So, yeah, I feel like also from Jim's 101 is when you create your profile picture, what you create is what you're going to get. So if you put your boobs on there or your vagina or something like that, you are going to get every creeper on earth. And if you just put your penis on there, then, you know, you're not going to get what you think you're going to get. You know, you're not going to be overloaded with all these women. It's like, I really like your dick. It looks really cool. Unless you're that guy who dresses his dick up as various little characters. And
Mr. Dickey.
Mr. Dickey is fucking fantastic. But, you know, just set your profile pic in such a way that if you want something of yours that's on there, just kind of be aware you're going to end up with.
That's really great advice. But also I love the idea that you can just show up to a munch and you're not, it's a judgment-free zone. Yeah. And sometimes we all say something a little weird.
Yeah. And that's okay.
It is okay. You bounce back.
Be weird.
Okay. Thank you both so much for your advice, for your stories, and for joining today.
Thank you for having us. This
Absolutely.
was fun.
So if people want to go follow you and find you on Fet, what are your handles?
So Pope, it's just 4 little letters. It's super simple. The best way, I don't use my personal account nearly as much as I would love to. At times I log on to it once a week or so just because the Cathedral account takes over almost everything.
So should they follow the Cathedral?
Yeah,
so
the underscore Cathedral. You have to add the underscore in there. Otherwise it's just as simple out of it. If you're struggling to find that, you can find it through my personal profile. Then you'll find the Cathedral. You'll find all of the different subgroup hosts that do things. Like we have rope groups, we have the littles group, we have the discussion groups, a subspace for submissives to have a support group that's out that meets once a month. And then we have Shades of Red, the Sin City Femdoms. They're all attached to the same thing. So we kind of branch out, offer as much stuff as we can for different people.
I just want to underscore the fact that this is for local people in the community.
Yes. Yeah.
Vegas is a huge tourist town, but this isn't for tourism. This is us building up I say us, but we're all part of the community.
That's right.
And we're looking for, this is more about people in the community.
You mentioned before about tourists and whatnot, and it's fine. We get a lot of tourists that reach out to us and be like, I'm going to be in Vegas. I want to turn shit up. And it's like, that's the wrong way to reach out to us in a sense of it. If you are predominant in your community, somewhere in Nebraska, and you're coming out to Vegas and it happens to fall on a weekend that we have an event coming on, reach out to us in advance. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so coming from this area. I'm a part of this community. Here's my community leaders. I would love to attend your event. And then I can reach out to those community leaders and vet you on a different style of things. If you come with a couple days to spare and you're able to catch the munch, then that gives us a chance to meet you and allow you to come to some more things that we have. So we try to go out of our way to vet people because we live in Vegas. We know there's a high 50 million people come here every year. But the wrong way to do it is have a picture of your dick as your profile picture and just send me a message that says, I need the address. I'm not going to respond to you.
That's happened.
Every single party. It happens.
Once again, zero shock.
I don't want to look at your dick every time you send me a message. So it's just, that's the first
I also don't
stop.
want to look at anybody's dick every time there's a message in my inbox.
Mm-hmm.
And Veronica, where can we find you?
Mine is Caramel Aphrodite.
Like a caramel, like sweet thing.
Yes.
Aphrodite. Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you find the Cathedral, we're all in service to the Cathedral. So the Cathedral page has everybody's profile names attached to it.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming on here. This has been an absolute blast. I love being a part of your community, and the Cathedral is where I met all of my friends, right, in Vegas. I moved here 15 months ago, and I have the biggest network, and I feel like I have family here, and it's because of the Cathedral. It's because of the people in the community who go out to other events and tell them about the Cathedral, you know? All right. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much
for
again.
Having us.
No, seriously.
That was fun.
My honor. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.